lots of great information. I hope that you take it in and start using it as soon as possible, because when you are planning ahead of time, it's much less stressful for you come senior year. And all you have to ask any of your senior friends, and they will tell you exactly the case. So next slide, please. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so the college planning process can be all these things. It can be intimidating, daunting, overwhelming, stressful, and scary. And all if you do not plan. So starting now in junior year, hopefully you've already been kind of wandering around the different college sites and exploring, but now it's time to really get serious with taking a look at what is in front of what you have in mind for yourself for now. So we want it to be all these things. We want it to be enjoyable. So pay close attention and see if we can make this easier for you. Next slide, please. Next slide. We've been having some connection issues. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so we need to always remember to breathe deeply in, let it out, and use the time here and the summer to really do all the preparation necessary to have a smooth application process senior year. So by September 2024, which is closer than you can imagine, be a great idea to have a list of 10 to 12 colleges that you are seriously considering applying to. So the key is 10 to 12 colleges that you are seriously considering applying to, not, so many schools that you're going to be overwhelmed. So do your research. So 5 elements of a college application. So of course your GPA is something that everyone wants to know about, and it can start freshman year and continues right at the ends of senior year. However, it's the ends of your junior year that those are going to be the grades that the colleges use for their initial assessment of whether to consider you for their school. That's not the last grades they're going to see. That's just going to be the grades that they see initially. So be mindful that all the way going to be they're going to be looking at your grades. And I'm not sure if, okay, here we go. The other part of the equation is the standardized test scores. Depending on the school that you're applying to and where they're at by 2024, you may or may not have the option to either submit your SATs or ACTs or it'll be optional. Some schools are going test blind. It's really a changing environment, so you're going to have to just keep your eyes open for the schools that you're interested in, what their policies are as it gets closer. So, of course, we've been encouraging you since freshman year to get involved in extracurricular activities. So if you have not done so, then it's important to really put your focus on something that you enjoy and start devoting time to it. It's not the amount of activities, it's the devotion to those activities that the colleges are really looking at. So the other pieces of the application process, of course, are going to be your essays and your supplementals. So the Common App essay goes to everyone, and then every school that you apply to will request at least one other writing sample in the form of some type of supplement. Some colleges ask for more than one supplement. And then, of course, your recommendation letters. So all these pieces are part of the process. Next slide, please. All right. So one of the things that I have noticed about students is that they're very concerned with the name of a school and not really so very concerned with whether or not a school is the right fit for them. So that's a very important thing to consider. You know, there are over 4,000 schools in the United States, so certainly there are plenty to choose from, and there will be a right fit for you. And it may not be the school that you have in mind at this point in time. So when you're researching your schools, you should make sure that they are fully accredited and that they offer the degree that you're looking for. Whether it's initially it's going to be a bachelor's, but if you want a school where you can stay on to get further degrees, then look for whether or not they have master's, PhD, whether they have combined degree programs, whatever it is that you're looking for. You also want to consider the setting. Do you want to be in an urban setting where you're close to some type of a city, or would you prefer to be in a more suburban type of a setting, or would you prefer to be in a rural setting? These are all things that are part of your thought process. Also, the size of the school, whether it's going to be a large university with 40 to 60,000 students, or is it going to be a smaller university with, between 5 and 15,000 students? And there are also some very, very small schools, about 1,000 students. So these are all things to think about. And what size are the classes? What's the ratio of student to professor? Also, whether you are interested in a public school, a private school, or a school that has some type of religious affiliation, and they all have their benefits. And these are all things that you need to consider as you're doing your research. And then, of course, different ways that you can apply. So you can do early decision, which is, generally a November 1st deadline, although there are some October 15th, depending on the school. And that's a binding agreement. So you have to be very certain that that's something that you're willing to lock into. And then restrictive early action, which some of the IVs are starting to move towards. And that is that it's not a binding agreement, but it restricts your ability to apply to other schools that are binding. So if you do restrictive early action, say to Princeton, you can't do early decision to some other school. You could do early action, but you can't do anything that's binding. So then you have, of course, early action, which is a non-binding application that has the same time deadline as an early decision. So usually would be November 1st. And then, of course, regular decisions, which can be anywhere from, January 1st on through the rest of the year. And also you want to look at what's the average test scores of students that are admitted to the college so that you can gauge where you fit in that realm. It's just to get an idea if it's going to be a target, a reach, or a safety for you. And, really where you stand with that particular school. So there's a lot of things that you're going to be considering, which is why the sooner you start doing some research, the less stressful it's going to be for you. Next slide, please. Okay, so part of, the next part of this right fit is the reality of the cost of attending the school. So of course you have, tuition, room and board, fees, books, but also depending on where the school is, you're traveling to get to the school, to come home from the school. All that becomes part of what is the actual cost of attending. And it can really change the price tag of the school. So definitely things to keep in mind. There are different types of financial aid that might be offered: need-based, need-blind, and merit-based. So you have to know, unfortunately, there is no one size fits all. Every college has their own process. So once you figure out what schools you're interested in, then you have to look more deeply into how do they handle their financial aid offerings. It's important also to look at the credentialing of the faculty to see how many full professors they have and tenured staff. And then you want to also understand what kind of organizations they have on campus, clubs, things like that you might be interested in, because although you're going there for an education, if you're living there, you're going to want to be involved in other activities, just like you have been in high school, to help build relationships and reduce stress. So you want to make sure there's things happening on the campus that are interesting to you. And then, of course, what are the facilities like? The actual the dorms that you might be living in, what kind of activities they have for student life. Sometimes there's things that kind of keep students on campus for the weekend because they want to, build that relationship. And other times it's more of a, like a commuter kind of a feel where people are close enough to home that they leave. And on the weekends, there's not much going on. So those are the things that you might want to consider, as well as their graduation rate and the retention rates. How many students return and actually complete their requirements at that particular university, or do they transfer, or do they leave after a certain amount of time? And how many students graduate within 5 to 6 years of beginning? And then what career and graduate school placement do they offer? It's become more and more the norm that this is a very big part of the college campus now, where there are all kinds of career guidance facilities available. It's a huge department now. So you want to make sure that that's an active department that you'll be able to utilize. And some schools will offer it even once you graduate. You can come back as an alum and take advantage of that career center if you wanted to switch careers or looking to change things. So it's important to look at that. And if you're interested in sports, either to play or to watch, then you want to look at that, the NCAA divisions, if it's 1, 2, or 3. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a very helpful thing, but not the only way to do your research. College fairs and campus visits, and of course we have school visits at Tech. We just finished them up last month. So from the end of September into November, we had colleges, over 80 different colleges came and spoke with our students. So it was quite a busy time. And you weren't allowed to go because you were a junior, but you will be allowed to go next year because it'll be for you. We are having an in-person fair this year at Tech, which is exciting. We haven't had one since pre-pandemic, and it will be April 20th I think it's from 7 to 9. And it should be on the school calendar already. You'll be hearing more about that as we go along. It's also, if at all possible, very important for you to put your feet on the ground of a campus that you're interested in. And then maybe once again, once you have applied and are trying to make your decision, to go back and visit. There's something very different that happens when you stand on a campus and you look around and you get the feeling for the vibe of the campus and whether or not you are comfortable there. It might seem in theory that it's a great fit for you, but then when you get there and you're looking around and you're just trying to get your feel, that's not the case. Or you're thrilled and for sure this is where you want to be. So when it's possible, a campus visit is wonderful. And it's one of the things for myself when my children were exploring colleges. I loved going with them and visiting the schools and just sharing that experience. So it's a real nice opportunity for the whole family. And of course, they have these big, huge fairs at the Javits Center and the Big Apple College Fair and things like that, just as another option. It cannot really replace you doing your research, or if you have a chance to physically go to the campus. It's very, very different. And of course, as I said earlier, these school visits by the reps that are going to be reading your applications, it's an opportunity for you to kind of speak up and speak out and ask good questions and get into the head of the reps. So when they are going through their application, they say, oh, I remember so-and-so. They asked really good questions and they were very curious. And I think that they may be a good fit. So those are the kind of things you want to take advantage of, not just to go to the school visit and then be silent, but to do some research so you can ask a good question and really, get some information. These are the representatives of our area who are, would be most knowledgeable to give you the up-to-date information for you. So you're going to be reminded about all of this. And I know that it's difficult with all the emails that you get all the time, but from here to graduation, you really need to make it a habit to check your emails very regularly, because there's so much information that you can miss if you do not check. So, part of it will be you might miss visits because you didn't check the website for when they're going to happen. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so just to go a little bit deeper into what I've spoken about with the types of applications. So regular decision, which is becoming less and less the norm. So many students, almost 2/3 of this class, senior class, applied early decision or early action or restrictive early action. So it's becoming more and more normal to do that. I don't really understand because it's very stressful, but it is our reality for today. Maybe that will change with your class. We will see. But with regular decision, customarily, it's going to be sometime in January, either January 2nd or any time after that. And again, each school has their own deadline. So the early actions, that's the November 1st. Every now and again, it may also be a October 15th, but most normally November 1st. And you'll get your decisions, starting now. I just got an email from Northeastern. They're releasing their decisions. And so students will be getting them soon. So, and that's between now and January is going to be what's happening with all the earlies, that they get released little by little. So early action, reminding you, is non-binding. That means that you can apply to multiple schools early action. I'm not suggesting that you do that. I think that it's wise to choose carefully the schools that you're applying early to. It's a lot of work, much more than you might think so right now. But to do, say, 2 or 3 early actions and an early decision is plenty for November 1st deadline. You want to do a very thoughtful application. You want your essays to be spot on. You want time for someone to review what you've written so that you're confident in sending it in. If you're going to go to the effort to do an early anything, action or decision, then you want to do it well. So you need to give yourself time. So keep the numbers reasonable. So it's non-binding, and you don't have to make any decision until that May 1st deadline. Restrictive early action is the one that says that you cannot apply to any other private institution that has a binding agreement. There are exceptions for early decisions to any public institution because they appreciate the difference in the price tag is dramatic. and that's a real concern for many people. And so this restrictive early action does not apply to the public schools, but it applies to the private institutions, that you cannot apply to any early decision that's binding if you're applying restrictive early action. And then the early decision. So restrictive early action is non-binding, and you have until that May 1st deadline to make your decision about that. But you'll have your answer earlier. So early decision is the one that is binding. And that is one school only. And a new thing the past couple of years has been an early decision 2, which has like a little bit of a later deadline. So some schools are offering both early decision and then early decision 2. You can only do one at a time. You have to wait for your early decision to come through. And if it comes through and that you were accepted, then that's it. You cannot apply early decision 2 anyplace. But if for some reason you are either pushed into a regular decision or you've been denied, then you certainly can apply ED2 to another school. And again, even ED2, it's a binding agreement. So I say all the time that students need to have real frank discussions with their family in regards to making this decision. And we will, in the college office and the colleges, require that the parent signs off on this, and I sign off on it, that we all add early decision is the way to go for this particular student, for this particular school. So it's a very serious commitment, and it is binding. Okay, and if you get accepted, all other applications need to be withdrawn. Usually what students do is they hold off on applying regular decision. Maybe they have done early actions, which they need to withdraw, but they hold off on their regular decisions so that they don't do all that work for naught. But again, I can't say it enough that it is a binding agreement. It's a legal contract that you're signing, that you are agreeing to attend if accepted. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there are also different types of applications. So one is the school specific, and then of course our personal favorite, the common application, the coalition application, and the universal application. So most common in our school is the common app. There are also school specifics that, such as Georgetown and MIT, that are very popular in our school. The coalition, not so much, and the universal application, even less so. They're just different ways that you can apply, but most, the best way for us in the college office at Staten Island Tech is if you use either the school-specific application for those particular schools that require it, or the Common App, because the Common App links directly to our Naviance system. So once you complete your Common App and you match it to Naviance and sign your FERPA, we can merge all your documents to your application and send it off in one smooth move. So that's our favorite way to go. Okay, so then school specifics are colleges that do not participate in the Common App. And for example, Georgetown, MIT, Rutgers, although Rutgers, as of next year, by the time you're applying, they will be on the Common App. So that'll be wonderful. And of course, all the University of California schools have their own application. And their regular decision is November 30th. So it's kind of early. Okay. And you have to, for those schools, everything has to be done through their website. So for example, I just did a couple of more MITs today, as a matter of fact, for a regular decision. And what happens is the student in their application will include the counselor, which would be me, or if your guidance counselor is writing for you, it would be their name. And then a link gets sent from the college directly to the recommender. And the same thing for your teacher recommendations, that they send the links directly to the teachers. So it's your responsibility to ensure that you have secured permission from your recommenders to do so, and let them know that you are applying to MIT or Georgetown or Rutgers or University of California, so that they keep their eyes open for these applications when they come in, because we also get lots of emails that we have to pay attention to. So the more you communicate with the college office and with your teacher recommenders, the smoother the application process will be. All right, so then I'm going to be talking about the Common App again, which is our preferred process. Presently, there are over 800 colleges that use the Common Application, including, the Ivies. And there's no differentiation between using their school-specific application as opposed to the Common App. And again, because of the interface with Naviance and Common App, it's just such a smoother process of getting documents from where they are to where they need to go. It is possible to do it other ways, and we certainly do. We use Parchment for those schools that do not, such as MIT and Georgetown, that do not take the Common App. We send everything through Parchment to them. So stick with the Common App whenever possible. You can fit up to 20 schools on there, so there's plenty of room. And again, I'm not encouraging 20 schools, but you have plenty of room. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to only spend a little time on the coalition, only because it's such a rarity, and some of the schools this past year have withdrawn from the coalition and gone back to the Common App. So anyway, it's relatively new, and similar to the purpose of the Common App, where you have everything in one place, and then you easily can send the information where it has to go, in theory. So the fact that it's linked to the Naviance system, which is what we use and many New York schools use, it makes it a little more cumbersome to utilize. Not impossible, but cumbersome. So it's up to you whether or not you want to explore that. I'm going to, encourage you to stick with the Common Application or school specific. And again, sidebar, that none of the schools that I have spoken about earlier who don't use the Common App also do not use the coalition. So they are absolutely school specific in the conversation. So if those are schools you're interested in, know that going in, that's the way you're going to have to apply. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so again, this is the universal application, and it's a very small number of schools that utilize this. And there are other options, even for the 44 schools who do use the application. They also have their own application, and they may also be linked to the common application. So in the interest of simplicity, it is strongly, in case you haven't noticed, strongly encouraged that you utilize the common application for disseminating your information to the schools that you're interested in. All right, next slide, please. So now you know where you want to go, and now you have to figure out how you're going to pay for it. So first and foremost is that everyone every year fills out the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. And as of 2016, the FAFSA can be submitted beginning October 1st. So it used to be that it was January 1st that it was available. But with this October 1st, they call it, you use the prior year tax returns to file in this October 1st FAFSA. It's free. If you go on to, you Google it and you end up on a site that looks like the FAFSA, but it's not quite, and they ask you for money, you're on the wrong site, and you need to exit and go back and get onto the free application for federal student aid. And again, that's something you do every year. It's kind of challenging the first year because it's brand new and you have to set up, all your passwords and IDs and things like that for both you and your parent or guardian. It's two separate steps. But once you get it set up, then every year you just go back and update. And it's what the colleges use as a starting point to determine how much aid they will be giving you. So it's necessary for, even if you don't think you're going to get aid for some reason, you should do it anyway because you could be wrong. And you don't want to take yourself out of the running for, being able to have money given to you because you felt like you probably wouldn't qualify. All right, so that's for all schools, private, public, religious, whatever. All of them want the FAFSA. The private schools also, not always, but often will ask for the CSS profile. So that is it's another way for them to look a little deeper into your financial situation. It allows you to talk about special circumstances, bills, private tuitions, whatever it may be, that doesn't get covered in the FAFSA. And that goes through the college, and there's a fee attached for every college that you submit your application. So you fill it out one time, and then every school that you want it to go to, that you're going to have to pay for that. So you're going to wait until you know where it is that you really want to go before you start sending this all over the place with the FAFSA. And we're going to have a financial aid information night for you guys in your senior year. So you'll get all kinds of information in this regard about this at that point. All right. So at the ends of the FAFSA there's going to be a prompt for you to apply for the TAP, which is the Tuition Assistance Program, strictly for New York State residents who will be attending college in New York State. Again, you might think that you're not going to apply or go to school in New York State, but you never know. You should just do it anyway. If you do not end up going to school in New York, then you don't get the money. If you do, there you go. You have it. So it's a grant, which means it did not get paid back. That is money that's given to you that you just say thank you very much, and you put it towards your college. So very important to do that. Like I said, no matter if you think you're definitely not going to school in New York as things change, you never know. So make sure that you just complete it. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So this is what you have to do in brief. you're going to research colleges and special programs. So if you're interested in a dental program, a pharmacy program, a BAMD program, whatever it is that you might be interested in, now's the time. You don't want to come into school in September and say, oh, I think I might be interested in doing this. You have to already have done the research and understand what's expected of you. And if there's classes that they want you to have taken in high school that maybe you're going to be taking as a senior, you need to know that. You can't come in senior year and say, oh boy, they expected me to take this, AP chemistry and I didn't do it. Because you won't be able to get into AP chemistry come September or whatever class that they're looking for. So now's the time to make sure that you know what is going to be asked of you by these special programs. And start making a list of colleges. And I beg of you to keep your mind open. As I said at the beginning of this, there are 4,000, probably more than about 4,000 schools in the United States. Many of them you will be an excellent fit for, and might even, be in a situation where you're in the top of the heap and get all of the offerings of internships and research opportunities and whatever. You guys are wonderful. And sometimes when you're in a school where everybody is the same as you, it's hard to distinguish. But if you are just open your mind a little, you might find that you have wonderful opportunities in excellent schools. So again, keep the mind open and start getting that list together for yourself, not based on what somebody else thinks is good for you, but what you are interested in. And don't worry so much about the name of the school, worry about what they have to offer. All those things we talked about at the beginning of this presentation to look for, that's what you can use to help make your decision, not, what other people think about the schools you're applying to. Know what the requirements are for testing. MIT, for example, this year back to the requiring the SAT. So some of the medical programs require SAT, ACT. So you need to know that. Most of our students take the exams anyway, and they're disappointed when they can't submit their scores to certain schools. Like California doesn't even accept them. They don't want them. But I understand you did well, and you want to be able to showcase that. You have to know where they're going to be either looked for or accepted for consideration. If a school has announced that they are test optional, that means that you can't be penalized in any way, shape, or form for not submitting your scores. They're not going to think anything about you, that you did not submit your scores. They said they're test optional. That means it's optional. If you want to do it, you do it. There are some interesting little sidebars to that, where general admission, it's not required, but for certain scholarships, they do require it. So again, that's why the retest is now, 11th hour, and you're scrambling. Okay. Again, have those discussions about, is it a good idea for you? Is restrictive early action, a good plan, or early action or a regular decision? So I will say that I was pleasantly surprised as I'm finishing up my letters of recommendation for the senior class, that some of our top students are applying only regular decision. They are confident, and they should be, that they are a strong enough student that regular decision is fine. They kept their stress level low, and they are able to keep up with their activities, and their grades are right where they want them to be, and they don't have to get their applications in until January. So it's given them this whole, first semester to work on that. November 1st comes up very quick. And again, if that's what you want to do, understand that it comes up quick. So you need to be prepared and reasonable in your expectations of yourself. because no one is going to say, your teachers or me or anybody else, that it's okay not to do your schoolwork because we know you're applying to college. You're never going to hear that. The expectation is that you will apply to college, you will do your schoolwork, you will be involved in your activities, you're going to do it all. So you want to use your time wisely. Don't overload yourself. Be reasonable with yourself. You're all wonderful students who have a lot to offer, and colleges will be thrilled to have you. Pace yourself. So if you are going to take multiple SATs, schedule them. Not necessarily going online and booking them, but in your minds, when is the next time that you're going to take the test? Or if you haven't taken it yet, when will be your first one? I really personally prefer that juniors wait until spring. So generally we have a free SAT in March that the city pays for. It's a great way to get an idea of where you are. And if you want to take another one, you can take it in August. You can take it in October. You have time. There's no reason to rush towards any of these things. Pace yourself. The more that you pay attention to what you're learning in class, the better you will do on these standardized tests, because you're learning the material and you're maturing, and there's such a big difference between the ends of sophomore year and the spring of junior year. It's a huge growth. So just be gentle on yourself, pace yourself, think it through logically. You have plenty of time. They give those exams constantly. So if not in December, which is probably past by now, you have time. And spring is good. Is a wonderful time to start, and gives you plenty of time to take it again if you wanted to. All right, and back to where we started, where you need to maintain your academic excellence. So wherever you are right now, you've gotten a progress report not too long ago. You have an idea of where you are midterm. Make sure that you reach whatever goal you want to end up with at the end of January, and continue that kind of mindset, that always striving to be your personal best. Don't procrastinate. Don't wait. Other things are more important. If you can master time management and balancing your life between what you enjoy to do and what you have to do, you'll be well prepared for college and beyond. So maintain your academic excellence and keep up the good work. Let's go on to the next. Are there any questions? I don't see any of the chat. So is there anything that's been coming up, Ms. Kirschbaum? So in regard to those questions, do they offer aid at the same time as admission if it's binding? So the quick answer is yes, but it's still binding. So you'll get the information, but it's not going to change the outcome. It's still ED is ED. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So you all took the PSAT in November, and that is the exam that's used for the National Merit Scholarship eligibility. And so well, I want to say that probably by the summer of this year, I'll be getting the preliminary students who have become semifinalists, and then it goes into a finalist stage. And then the actual winners are generally announced in December. So it goes down from thousands across the country to smaller number. We had, quite a number of finalists this year and last year as well. So I'm assuming that will continue, and we'll see. That's a nice. You don't have to do anything other than you already took the exam, and that's strictly what it's based on. And if you indicate what college you would likely attend on your PSAT, then there is a possible eligibility through the college directly for a national merit scholarship sponsored by the college. So there's a few different ways that you could end up being a recipient of this scholarship. So I feel like I said this in the beginning. Make sure that you have some kind of summer activity in place no later than spring of 2023. So it doesn't include things like any kind of test prep or things like that. The best use of that time is either some kind of internship or job, or if any of you are able to go on that CIEE study abroad program, that's wonderful. That's a great way to indicate that you have interest beyond just the academics, which is a big part of what many schools are looking for. What makes you different than the other 50,000 students who have applied? And having a particular activity, or if many of our students have started 501c3s and little businesses and all kinds of web development. It's very interesting, the amount of things that you all have been involved in, and certainly a study abroad program such as the CIEE program, which I believe everyone had a presentation just within the last couple of weeks. I can't speak highly enough about that. We've had students go every year to different places around the world and have had just wonderful, life-changing experiences. So whatever it is that you do this summer, make sure that you have a plan in place for, by the spring, at least a loose plan of what you might want to be doing. Okay. And if you haven't put together a resume, which I know that if you go back to your mind in freshman year, Mrs. Fitzpatrick worked with you on how to develop a resume. Make sure you do that from freshman year forward, but it's easy to forget things. And it's interesting when I speak with students and I remember something that they did, and I say, well, how do you do? So it's good to get a resume set up and just keep adding to it. And that's something you're going to do for the rest of your life. You're going to have a resume in play that you keep updating as your skills mature and you change jobs or careers or whatever you do. You always need a resume. So you want it to be active and available to you. So I lost, there we are. All right. So many of the colleges are still doing virtual events. So not necessarily college fairs, but virtual open houses and things like that. So make sure that you register for them. Or again, if you're able to go and actually visit these schools, then that's wonderful. To be able to talk to students who are currently attending the university that you're interested in. A lot of the the colleges also offer blog sites where you can go and have conversations with current students and ask them questions that you have about the ins and outs of the school, what they like about it, what they would like to see different. So there's many things that you can do, and this virtual ability is helpful in many ways, because not everybody can literally make all these trips. Okay, by this May 2023, you're going to have spoken to 2 teachers, current teachers, junior teachers, that you feel like you know very well, and they know you very well, and you're confident that they will be able to write a good letter for you, and ask them if they would do so. If for some reason they say, I'm sorry, I have only time to do so many recommendations, so I can't do anymore. A lot of our teachers are very generous, and they'll do 40 or 50 letters. That's a lot. They're also teaching classes. We want you to ask doing already. So it's a big ask, and they're willing to do it if you're a strong student and you have a good relationship. So May, the latest, you're going to ask them if they will write for you. If for some reason they say no, and make sure that you have a recommendation for you. Want you to run the risk of having your important college information get lost in a school email that you're not checking regularly enough. When it comes to college, you have to have an email that is strictly for that purpose, and you're going to check that regularly, so that when the colleges reach out and they ask you for things or updates or we're missing this, whatever it is, you see that and you respond immediately. Or you come to us and you say, I got an email from the school and they're missing this document. Can you help me? So it's just helpful. And again, as I said earlier, you have to get in the habit of checking. I have to check my email more times than I care to myself. But I know when you write me an email, you expect that I'm going to get back to you fairly quickly, which I do. And that's because I check my emails. So you have to do the same. And it's going to just be the way of the world for you from here on in. So it's how your college professors are going to communicate with you. You just have to get in the habit. So if it doesn't apply to you, discard. If it is important, at least you saw it. And I can't tell you how many students tell me, oh, I didn't see that email. I didn't know we had a deadline, blah, blah, blah. You have to really pay attention. This is, very important for your future, that you don't miss any deadlines and that you've done everything that you can to have an amazing, exciting, memorable, motivating, and pivotal college planning year. I hope some of you will also consider taking I'll do a little plug for the College Now for the career and college planning. It's a great opportunity to take a deeper dive into all of this and, get some credit while you move it along here. So don't forget to breathe, pay attention to the emails, ask questions of the college office, not of your friends. Students come in every day and ask all kinds of questions, and some of them are related to things that they heard from other students. For example, a student asked me the other day whether or not it was true that all of the grades from 2020 were not going to count towards their GPA because of the pandemic. So somebody had told them that, which is not true, and they thought it was. So you really need to, and I'm glad that the student came and asked me, because then I could clear up the myth that was being perpetrated. So come in and ask a question. And if I'm not available, the secretary and the school lady who work in the college office are knowledgeable about everything administrative related to college planning, and they can be very helpful. And if you need to schedule to meet with me, they will do that as well. So the only wrong question is the one you keep to yourself. You need to, we say that all the time. The teachers probably say it to you a million times, that ask a question, because there's somebody else around you who has the same question in mind and they're afraid to ask. So we want to try to help you have a smooth planning for this year, and however we can help you and support you in that, we will. This will not be the last meeting we have. I meet with all juniors one-on-one through the entire spring. So starting in February right through May, you'll be receiving an email inviting you to come and meet with me to have your one-on-one review of what you have in mind for colleges and things like that. And then we will have another meeting like this in June for what you should be doing over the summer. So start doing your research now, and good luck. Good luck with the process. Are there any final questions? We have a couple of minutes here.
No final questions.
All right. So thank you all for joining us tonight. And I look forward to working with you more closely as the months proceed. Take care.